Hi, this is Steve with Thresher Media Group. Welcome to When You're Ready to Listen. This podcast is dedicated to exploring the truth about God, things you may not have understood, may not have been taught, or quite frankly, had a very hard time believing. And since our entire relationship with God rests on believing, it is important we learn how to separate the truth from the many lies and fictions that abound within the religion of Christianity. So when you're ready to listen, tune in and discover a pathway to freedom, encouragement, life, and hope. Episode 106, Revelation 13, verse 2. In our last podcast, we discussed the emergence of the kingdom of the beast, who will be given Satan's power, throne, and great authority. We addressed the 7 heads, 10 horns, and 10 diadems of the beast. And now we will pick up with the odd animal images which the Spirit uses to describe the kingdom of the beast. The beast, Revelation 13:2. And the beast which I saw was like a leopard, and his feet as of a bear, and his mouth as of the mouth of a lion. The kingdom of the beast. In the same way that a king is identified with his kingdom, and vice versa, it's important to reiterate that this image of the beast with 7 heads, 10 horns, and 10 diadems on his horns, combined with these animal descriptions, is a picture of the kingdom of the beast. Thus, whether the Spirit is addressing the kingdom of the beast himself, the destroyer, or the man who is the human imager publicly representing the destroyer and the kingdom, the Spirit simply refers to the beast, the spiritual king upon whom this part of the Revelation narrative is centered. But to understand the nature of the beast, the Spirit wants us to grasp the full splendor of the kingdom of the beast, imaged through this amalgamation of animalistic images. And keep in mind, the prophet Daniel said that it is terrifying. The kingdom comes. Just to refresh, the kingdom of the beast first enters the scene at the blowing of the 2nd trumpet. Revelation 8:8-9. The 2nd angel sounded, and something like a great mountain, now having been caused to be burning with fire, was thrown into the sea. And a third of the sea became blood, and a third of the creatures which were in the sea and are now having life died, and a third of the ships were caused to be thoroughly rotted. When we studied this text, we came to understand that this kingdom, or this something like a great mountain, is even now active in our world, now having been caused to be burning with fire. Thus, it's already doing its destructive work. However, it is yet to manifest itself physically in our realm, to be, as it says, thrown into the sea. And that won't occur until the blowing of the 2nd trumpet. But as we have come to understand, it is very active. The use of animal imagery, the leopard, bear, and lion, describes for us the base nature of the beast and his kingdom. And it gives us a glimpse of how the kingdom and this demon will move about in the realm of humanity. This image combines different elements from each animal to create a horrifying, monstrous creature with remarkable capabilities. This imagery appears to stitch together into one beast elements of the 3 creatures found in the vision which the prophet Daniel had about future world kingdoms. Therefore, to understand this beast, we will have to take a deep dive into Daniel's vision. But more on that later. The kingdom, the destroyer, the Antichrist. Once again, in the same way that a king is identified with his kingdom and vice versa, throughout the Revelation narrative, the Holy Spirit addresses the beast and his kingdom by just referring to the beast. In effect, they are one and the same because it all functions in unity, in accord with the purposes and activity of Satan. For instance, in the descriptions of the beast being pictured through an amalgamation of animals, a leopard, a bear, and a lion, we derive insight into the kingdom of the beast, both before the demon who is known as the destroyer takes over its leadership, in other words, when it's still run by lesser demons, and after the destroyer takes up his mantle of authority upon his release from the abyss. We will also derive insight into the man who will ultimately be possessed by the beast, by the destroyer, the one who is the imager that interacts with humanity, the man we call the Antichrist, the man of lawlessness, the son of destruction. So whether the Spirit is addressing the kingdom of the beast himself, the destroyer, or the man who is the human imager representing the destroyer and the kingdom, he simply refers to the beast, the man, the Antichrist. Now, to the surprise of many, throughout the entire Revelation narrative, the Spirit never refers to the man we call the Antichrist, this man of lawlessness, the son of destruction. He only refers to the beast, to the demon whom we know from 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verses 1 through 11, will ultimately possess the man and manifest himself through the man. With that said, we do get one small glimpse of this relationship between the beast and the man of lawlessness in Revelation 13:5, where we are told that the beast is given a mouth speaking arrogant words and blasphemies. A similar description of him is given in Daniel 7 prophecies. But that's it. That is the only references that ties the beast to a man. The Spirit's focus throughout Revelation is on unseen realities, on this demon, this spirit king who is called the beast and who has a kingdom and who will ultimately work in and through a man. With that said, much of what is described in the spiritual realm is applicable to the man and to his earthly kingdom, in that the beast moves and controls the man and brings the spiritual reality into the physical realms in a physical kingdom that is ruled by spiritual beings. In other words, there's no man who is given the power, great authority, and throne of the dragon. All of that is given to the beast. In turn, the beast possesses and then uses the man to carry out the dragon's purposes on the earth. In that regard, the man, the Antichrist, is merely the vessel. After all, there must be a body for this ploy of the dragon to work. Let me explain. In accordance with the Father's plan, Jesus took upon himself a human body and presented himself as the Messiah. So too, this beast, this imitator, must likewise enter a human body to present himself to the world as the Messiah. We'll get into this deeper when we get to Revelation chapter 13, verse 5, and discuss the mouth that is given to the beast. But just keep in mind, there must be a body. With that said, these pictures of various animals provide us insight as to how the beast will work in and through the man, and how the beast and the kingdom of the beast will be experienced by the peoples of the world. Like a leopard. And the beast which I saw was like a leopard. The leopard is an agile and stealthy predator whose success in the wild is in part due to its opportunistic hunting behavior, its adaptability to habitats, its ability to run at speeds approaching 36 miles per hour, its unequaled ability to climb, swim, and leap, and its ability to conceal itself. The leopard moves stealthily and is known to be bloodthirsty and cruel. The leopard, he's elusive, solitary, and largely nocturnal. It hunts at night. But it is also a man-eater. Two leopards are famous for their numbers. The leopard of Pinar is believed to have killed more than 400 men. And the leopard of Rudraprayag, sorry about that, Rudraprayag, well, he may have killed more than 125 people. The point is that it is well adept at hunting and killing man. This picture communicates that the beast will be a man of intrigue and concealment, stealth, and he will do his evil in the shadows, in the darkness. Through his shrewdness, he will cause deceit to succeed by his hand or by his influence, and he will be a manhunter. He will pounce on the unsuspecting and grab hold of his prey, the peoples and nations of the world. His rule will be opportunistic, fierce, tyrannical, bloodthirsty, and cruel. His prey will think he comes in peace, but he will quickly pounce and consume them. He will be a political master, able to successfully move in and out of various circumstances in which he finds himself. And when he moves to take power, he will move with great speed and agility. He will run an efficient military, backed by his coalition of 10 horns, able to avoid detection, avoid harm, yet extremely effective at conquering his foes. The bear's feet, and his feet as of a bear. The beast will have feet like a bear. Interestingly, the bear is one of the few animals that, like men, can walk on their 2 feet. They look lumbering and awkward when they walk on their hind feet, but they have remarkable balance. The advantage of their bone and foot structure is found in their stability and weight-bearing ability. And this gives them an advantage in a fight. They can stand and reach out with their long arms and with their claws dismember or disembowel its victims. The obvious disadvantage of standing is speed. But the bear can also advance on all fours, reaching up to 30 miles per hour. The foot of the bear has a non-retractable claws. Therefore, if you get struck by one of their punches, it will, without question, tear off a significant part of your body. So what does this tell us? The beast and his kingdom may look lumbering and awkward at first, but it will be extremely stable and able to bear, pun intended, a large amount of weight in terms of the world's troubles. It will be a fighter and will be able to go toe-to-toe with the best of them. The beast will appear as someone of great strength, and his kingdom will stand tall and stretch out across the globe, and it will shred and harm anyone who attempts to oppose it. And if his enemies attempt to flee, he will chase them down and kill them. This explains why the war he will wage against the 2 witnesses will be a short war, 75 to 120 days. It'll be over quickly. He will do great damage with just the swing of his paws. Lion's mouth. And his mouth as of the mouth of a lion. As far as the lion's mouth is concerned, this brings up several potent images. Number 1, its loud roar, which is the loudest of the cat family and can be heard up to 5 miles away. And 2, its ability to bite and tear up its victims. To give you an example of the strength of its bite, the strongest dog has a bite which measures 325 pounds per square inch, whereas the bite of a lion has a PSI of 1,000. Still, the lion usually first kills by strangulation, by biting the throat and tightening its grip until the prey is asphyxiated. Sometimes it goes for the prey's mouth and bites completely around it and suffocates the prey. And if that does not work, it severs the spinal connection at the back of the neck and paralyzes or instantly kills its prey. The teeth of a lion, they're actually spaced such that they can slip between the cervical vertebrae of their prey and sever the spinal cord. The shape of their back teeth makes them work like a pair of scissors for cutting meat and bone, and the rest of the teeth are designed for tearing. The lion also only uses one side of its mouth at a time, since, unlike a human jaw, its jaw cannot move side to side, but only up and down. In addition, they do not chew their food. They tear up big chunks and swallow it. Finally, their tongue is covered with spines, and this helps the lion scrape meat off the bones of its prey. This picture communicates that the roar of the beast will instill fear into the hearts of men, both near and far. And when he moves to attack to take over a people group or a nation, he will find a way to asphyxiate it with his bite. He will go for the throat and hold until they simply cannot fight. He will attack the weakness in each victim. He'll find their economic air supply, so to speak, and cut it off until they are asphyxiated, paralyzed, or dead. His bite will be deadly. Once bitten, his enemies will not be able to escape. He will then proceed to tear them apart and consume them. Nations, economies, and peoples all around the world will literally be consumed in great chunks. Hence, the beast will have a series of fast and dominating victories. And like the tongue of a lion, he will scrape the meat off the bones. He will take every last thing, whether treasure or commodity, that these nations or people groups once possessed. As such, he will not ascend to power slowly. Rather, he will literally take great chunks out of the world. His victims will either surrender to his overwhelming power or they will die. But since he cannot move his mouth side to side, it seems to indicate that he will take over these nations sequentially, one chunk at a time. It'll be like a row of dominoes falling. Thus, he will not make the mistake of many megalomaniacs by battling on various fronts. Exceedingly dreadful. One thing we can conclude about the beast and his kingdom is that he, or it, will be extremely violent. From a worldly perspective, the nations which have insight into his ways will join in his conquest, or else they will be conquered. In effect, convert or die will be the motto of the beast. The prophet Daniel saw this beast and was terrified by it. He said it was exceedingly dreadful, having teeth of iron, an unbreakable bite, and claws of bronze, claws of judgment, which devoured, crushed, and trampled down the remainder or the residue with its feet. This kingdom, it is said, will devour the whole earth, tread it down, and crush it. A conglomeration of kingdoms to come. Revelation 13:2. And the beast which I saw was like a leopard, and his feet as of a bear, and his mouth as of the mouth of a lion. The kingdom of the beast appears to be stitched together or formed from a conglomeration or an amalgamation of kingdoms which are described in Daniel 7. Aramaic and not Hebrew. It is important to note that the visions we will address in the book of Daniel were not written in Hebrew, but they were written in Aramaic, which was the language being used in Persia at the time Daniel wrote. Aramaic was a Semitic language, so it has similarities to the Hebrew, and it just happened to be the common language of Jesus' day. But in our modern Bibles, in Daniel, we are reading translations of the Aramaic into Hebrew and from the Hebrew into English. We will discover, however, that differences in the root words are critical to our understanding. The same but different. In Daniel 7, the Spirit identified 3 distinct kings/kingdoms using the imagery of a lion, a bear, and a leopard. Then Daniel described a 4th kingdom that is, quote, different than the other 3 kingdoms. However, given our Western way of thinking, different is probably not the best translation of the Aramaic text, for it makes us think there is no real correlation, like the difference between grass and a rock, or an apple and a boat. Whereas this difference is more akin to the result that occurs when the branch of one tree is grafted into another tree. The Aramaic should therefore be understood to mean that this king and /kingdom is altered or changed to be different or diverse in some way from the others, and that difference is notable, thus preserving a connection to the other 3 beasts, but distinct in its sovereignty and rule. For instance, the 4th beast of Daniel is described as having large iron teeth and 10 horns. Our connecting point between the 2 passages, Daniel 7 and Revelation 13:2, is the animal imagery, like a leopard, and his feet as of a bear, and his mouth as of the mouth of a lion. And the kingdom that is similar, but with differences, the 4th kingdom, the kingdom of the beast, having large iron teeth and 10 horns. So to better understand our passage in Revelation 13:2, we need to examine Daniel 7, and then we'll tie it all back together to get a better understanding of this terrifying conglomeration or amalgamation that is the beast, the stirring up of the sea. Daniel said, I was looking in my vision by night, and behold, the 4 winds of heaven were stirring up the great sea. According to the code, we can understand that 4 spiritual beings of heaven were stirring up the nations of humanity, as the winds are code for the angelic. Countries, empires of the end times. Next, Daniel saw 4 great beasts arising from the stirring sea. He said, and 4 great beasts were coming up from the sea, different from one another. The first beast he saw was like a lion with 2 wings that were subsequently plucked off. The second beast resembled a bear that was raised up on one side and had 3 ribs in his mouth. The third beast was like a leopard that had 4 wings of a bird on its back, and it had 4 heads. The fourth beast was dreadful, terrifying, and extremely strong, and it had large iron teeth and 10 horns, from which came a little horn, which displaces 3 of the original 10 horns. This little horn possessed eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth uttering great or uttering boasts. Keep in mind, Daniel was writing during the time of the Persian Empire, which came after the Babylonian, Assyrian, and Egyptian empires, but before the Greek and the Roman empires. What we will discover, however, is that this vision of these 4 beasts is not addressing any empires or countries from history at that time when Daniel was writing, neither the Egyptian, Assyrian, Babylonian, nor the Persian empires, but future kingdoms and kings, spiritual kings, that would come up out of the great sea and whose kingdom would have a great impact on the peoples of the world. The question arises, however, as to whether this vision addresses in any manner the Grecian or the Roman empires. The text itself states that these four beasts are four kings that will arise on the earth, something to occur in the future. It's important to note that this text in Daniel was written, again, in Aramaic and not Hebrew. So it has been translated, once again, from the Aramaic into Hebrew and Hebrew into English. The Aramaic verb translated as will arise is in the imperfect, which, like Hebrew, largely depends on the context to know if it refers to something that happened in the past, but had some sort of continuing progress, or something that is and will be arising as a future event. In that regard, contextually, the Spirit intentionally links this phrase to a future event, giving us our clue that these images are not addressing history, but future kingdoms that will arise at the end of the age. After the angel who is explaining the dream to Daniel mentioned that the four beasts are four kings that will arise, he said, "But the holy ones of the highest one will receive the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, for all ages to come." It seems his intent, the Holy Spirit's intent, was to tie our understanding of these images to the context of end times, to when Jesus returns and he hands the rule of the kingdoms of this world to the bondservants of Jesus, to those who are now overcoming. In addition, the description of the fourth beast which the angel gives to Daniel addresses things that are unique to the end times. For instance, how the beast arises to power, how long he stays in power, for times, and half a times, the mysterious 3.5 years, his disdain and aggression towards the people of God, how the king uses a man to accomplish his purposes on the earth. He has eyes like a man and a mouth uttering great boasts, and how Yahweh will destroy him forever and then establish his eternal kingdom such that the dominions serve and obey Yahweh. All these descriptions point us toward the end times, to Jesus' victory over the beast, and not to historical kingdoms. For instance, regarding the fourth beast, Daniel said in Daniel 7:21-22, "I kept looking, and that horn was waging war with the holy ones and overpowering them until the ancients of days came and judgment was passed in favor of the holy ones of the highest one. And the time arrived when the holy ones took possession of the kingdom." Or Daniel 7:25-27. "He," speaking of the horn, "will speak out against the Most High and wear down the holy ones of the highest one. And he will intend to make alterations in times and in law, and they will be given into his hand for a time, times, and half a time." Again, the mysterious 3.5 years. "But the court will sit for judgment, and his dominion will be taken away, annihilated, and destroyed forever. Then the sovereignty, the dominion, and the greatness of all the kingdoms under the whole heaven will be given to the people of the holy ones, of the highest one. His kingdom will be an everlasting kingdom, and all the dominions will serve and obey him." All these events, including the famed 3.5 years, time, times, and half a time, tie the context of the vision to the nations that will exist during the end times and the period of time in which the beast rules on earth. Given these descriptions and the very specific timing, we can safely conclude that the other historical empires which arose after the Persian Empire, but which no longer exist, are not at issue, including the Grecian and Roman empires. These four kingdoms will arise and exist in our world during the end times. Moreover, in Daniel's vision, the fourth beast is slain, its body destroyed and given to the burning fire. This is exactly what we are told will happen to the beast and the false prophet. When Jesus returns and wages war against the beast, he will throw them alive into the lake of fire, which burns with brimstone. The correlation is spot on. Therefore, it's safe to conclude that Daniel's vision pertains to the countries and empires that exist during the end times. And even more specific, we can conclude that the fourth beast in Daniel's vision is a picture of the king and the kingdom of the beast. As a final point, Daniel also states that at Jesus' second coming, or as he says it, one like the Son of Man was coming, the first three beasts, the lion, the bear, and the leopard, had their dominion taken away. But an extension of life was granted them for an appointed period of time. Yet previously, Daniel was given an interpretation to a different dream, where specifically regarding the Grecian and Roman empires, as well as the Babylonian and Persian empires, it was revealed that in the days of those kings of Babylon, Persia, Greece, and Rome, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom which will never be destroyed. In that regard, during his first coming, Jesus announced that the kingdom of God has come near, is at hand, and has come upon you. The dream that Daniel was interpreting also revealed that this eternal kingdom will crush and put an end to all these other kingdoms, but it will itself endure forever. But even more specifically, he stated, then the iron and the clay, the Roman Empire, the bronze, the Grecian Empire, the silver, the Persian Empire, and the gold, the Babylonian Empire, were crushed like one and became like chaff from the summer threshing floors, and the wind carried them away, so that not a trace of them was found. As far as we can tell, these kingdoms have disappeared from the face of the earth. For instance, there is no trace remaining of the Babylonian kingdom. In contrast, the leopard, the bear, and the lion will have their dominion taken away, but they will be granted an extension of life, such that they will remain for an appointed period of time. Thus, these three kings and kingdoms will be existent during the end times. And although they are conquered, their dominion removed, they will be reserved for an appointed period of time. This appointed period of time is likely when the Lord's millennial kingdom reign is complete, as depicted in the short description we are given of the end of the millennial 1,000-year reign of Christ on earth, when the nations of the earth once again turn and attempt to wage war against the Lamb. This is found in Revelation chapter 20, verse 7 through 10. When the 1,000 years were completed, Satan will be caused to be released from his prison and will in the future choose to come out to deceive the nations which are in the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together for the war. The number of them is like the sand of the seashore. And they came upon the broad plain of the earth and surrounded the camp of the holy ones and the beloved city, and fire came down from heaven and devoured them. And the devil who is now deceiving them was caused to be thrown in the lake of fire and brimstone, where the beast and the false prophet also are. And they will in the future be caused to be tormented day and night, forever and ever. Now, this declaration by the Spirit of God in the book of Daniel that the Babylonian, Persian, Greek, and Roman empires were crushed like one and became like chaff from the summer threshing floors, and the wind carried them away so that not a trace of them was found, that whole thing casts a shadow, a big shadow, on the belief that has been perpetuated throughout the most popular end times narratives, which says that the kingdom of the beast is the revived Roman Empire. I mean, I'm sure we pretty much all have heard that. This fiction will be addressed when we get to Revelation 17 and we address the seven mountains, who are seven kings, upon which the woman of harlotry, the spirit of apostate religion, sits. For now, just keep in mind that these kingdoms, the Babylonian, Persian, Greek, and Roman empires, were crushed like one and became like chaff from the summer threshing floor, and the wind carried them away, so that not a trace of them was found. Sovereign kingdoms. In Daniel's vision, he stated that each of these four beasts, therefore each of the four spiritual kings who will rule over a kingdom, were different from one another. This speaks to the point that each of these kings will have a unique and sovereign kingdom. However, because of the combined image in Revelation 13:2, it seems that though they are independent in terms of their national sovereignty, they are different. They are also unified and bound together in the kingdom of the beast, and they function together as one in some grotesque conglomeration of confederation of nations. This will make more sense as we dig into the descriptions. Animals and Gentile nations. There's obviously a lot of speculation as to the identity of these kingdoms imaged as a lion, a bear, and a leopard. But we are not left to mere speculation. The Codex often views nations through their national symbol and through some symbol that portrays the character and nature of the nation. For example, when Daniel sees a vision of a ram and a goat, he is told that the ram is a picture of the Persian Empire, and the goat is a picture of the kingdom of Greece. There is no confusion as to the meaning of these animal images, since Daniel is specifically told that the male goat represents the king of the Grecian Empire. Understanding national imagery will be critical to our understanding the kingdom of the beast. The point is that using animals is a common way for the Spirit throughout the Codex to depict Gentile nations. It is code. You might be wondering why the Spirit uses animals for this purpose. Not surprisingly, the other things that are pictured in the Codex as animals, or animal-like creatures, are demonic spirits, which are imaged as bears, lions, leopards, goats, bats, crows, storks, hawks, eagles, snakes, scorpions, sea monsters, a behemoth, and a dragon, just to name a few. And this makes sense since the Gentile nations were given over at Babel to be ruled by the spirit princes known as Elohim, or gods. Yes, rule of the Gentile nations was given over to the demonic spirits. Thus, these nations tend to be imaged according to the animalesque nature of the demonic spirits that rule or control them. Or better said, the spirits that give each nation its unique spiritual identity. Israel and Yahweh. The exception to this connection between animal and a nation, as one would expect, is with the nation of Israel, both in terms of spiritual Israel and the physical nation. When Yahweh handed over the rule and control of the Gentile nations to the gods, to the Elohim, he chose the nation of Israel for his own. Hence, throughout the Codex, Israel is pictured using images that communicate Israel's need for special care, nurturing, and attention, such as a woman, a bride, or special companion, a grapevine, a symbol of spiritual privileges, an olive tree, a symbol of religious privileges, and a fig tree, a symbol of national privileges. Unlike animals that hunt and forage and tend to care for their own needs, the images attributable to Israel, again, both spiritual Israel and the physical nation, intentionally depict a sort of weakness, neediness, and dependence, all of which is to point Israel to Yahweh as its source for all things all the time. This explains why God chose the name Yahweh, which is rooted in the Hayah, or the I Am, to be his memorial name to all generations. It also gives context to why God images himself as a gardener, a vine keeper, a husbandman, a lover, and Jesus as the bridegroom, etc. So with that understanding, we will dive into the description of the first three beasts in Daniel 7, as they are important to our understanding of the fourth beast and its commingled image which John saw. We will draw on the previously given character descriptions of the lion, the bear, and the leopard, as those describe these beasts' base nature. But given the importance, potency, and the length of this analysis, let's stop here, and we'll pick up on our next podcast with the description of the first three beasts in Daniel 7. I'm glad you tuned in and have been ready to listen. To get a free download of the full written transcript with all the scripture references footnoted, please go to threshermediagroup.com. That is THRESHER mediagroup.com. This is Steve with Thresher Media Group. When you're ready to listen, tune in.